Yeah, well, I think we got to, like I said, get people back to work ASAP, but do it in a certain way. I mean, maybe this week 25% of the workforce comes back. Maybe next week 50% of the workforce is back. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that it's 75, and then ultimately everybody in a few months. But we need to get as many people back as we can. We have to take common sense approaches in that. If you have a small business or something and you have a waiting area, you might want to spread the chairs out a little bit more in the waiting area so we're still maintaining some of this social distancing. You may want to have a hand sanitizer readily available, which you maybe didn't have in the past. You may want to require your employees to wash their hands every 30 minutes. If you may want to give your employees the option of going ahead and coming to work and wearing a mask and things of that nature, if it makes them feel better about being to work for a few weeks until everybody feels more comfortable with what's going on here. But we have to really take those kinds of common sense approaches, but do it in an effort to get people back to work. I think if we do that, we're going to find out that very rapidly we're going to realize that we can handle this, that we can get back to work and still manage this. I'm a firm believer by July and August. Somebody asked me about the rodeo in Amarillo coming up in July, and I said, yeah, I would plan to have it. I think by July, this is going to be behind us for the most part. Doesn't mean it's not going to come back in the fall, but I guarantee you we're going to be way better prepared for this if it does come back in the fall, and it won't shut our economy down like it did now.
So what do you say to the individual who's very concerned, and legitimately so? Well, if you open up the economy too much too quickly, then you're going to have the big resurgence. You're going to have the numbers that begin to skyrocket again because you got too many people out around one another. Is that something that we're just going to have to be prepared to deal with? Because the other alternative is seeing the solution become bigger than the original problem, or is there a way to balance both?
There's a way to balance both. You just have to be really aware of that, and you have to watch for that, right? That's why this phased rollout's not all at once. It gets it out there, and it lets things start getting opened up, and the whole time, the public health authorities are going to be watching, see what's going on in the community. If the cases start spiking somewhere, then they can lock that area down a little bit and get control of it again, but that won't be everywhere. And so there's going to be some surveillance involved in that, some common sense. I would say, like with my recommendations before, the one thing I would say that hasn't really changed is you still need to really, at this phase of the game, really protect the elderly. Most of the elderly folks should stay home and stay away from other folks as much as possible. I would say we still restrict people going up to nursing homes and things of that nature where the really vulnerable population exists. And then if you have all these comorbidities that have been proven, like diabetes and congestive heart failure, things of that nature that may predispose you to death if you get a viral infection of any kind, including COVID-19, then you also need to be a little bit more cautious. But the rest of us that don't have comorbidities and that don't fall into that over 65 age range can go ahead and start getting back to work. But there will be a balance.
Is there some herd immunity benefit, you think, to some of the younger, healthier people getting back out and potentially getting exposed to the virus and allowing the human body to do what it does to fight it?
Absolutely. Every day that goes by, that herd immunity builds, and it's already played a role to some extent, I would imagine, but that's where it's really going to come into play is next fall. If this tries to come back in the fall, we're going to have people out there, way more people than we know about, that have been exposed, that have antibodies to this, that are going to provide that herd immunity for a lot of the rest of us that didn't get it. Yeah, so the herd immunity will play a factor in this sooner than later.